Harry and Meghan torched what little was left of their relationship with the royal family and what little was left, frankly, of their own reputation.
It's a Shakespearean example of how hereditary privilege magnifies both honour and disgrace.
There is a no-holds-barred, warts-and-all, tell-all story waiting to be shared with the world.
The affairs of the royal family tells you that we are living in quite bizarre time.
The royal family's darkest secret isn't what happened behind palace walls last year. It's what's about to happen next. And according to one royal insider's explosive report cards, Prince Harry has become such a massive liability that he could trigger the monarchy's biggest scandal since Jeffrey Epstein. The warning signs are everywhere. From desperate cash grabs at Canadian real estate conferences to his delusional BBC rants about security arrangements, Harry's spiral into irrelevance has taken a dangerous turn. But here's what nobody's talking about: the parallels between Harry's current trajectory and Prince Andrew's catastrophic fall from grace are becoming impossible to ignore. Royal expert Brittany, from a prominent royal news network, just dropped her brutally honest assessment of every major royal's performance this year, and the results are devastating. Starting with the absolute failures and working up to the surprising successes, these grades reveal a monarchy in crisis, and a ticking time bomb that King Charles refuses to defuse. Let's start with the worst offender. Prince Harry earned himself a spectacular F grade, and the reasons go far beyond his usual attention-seeking antics. This year marked a fundamental shift in Harry's strategy. He's essentially become what Brittany calls a cosplay royal, desperately trying to recreate the relevance he threw away. The most alarming development? Harry's newfound willingness to attach himself to any cause, any event, any opportunity that comes with a paycheck. That Canadian real estate conference appearance wasn't just embarrassing, it was a red flag. Here's a man who knows nothing about Canadian real estate, doesn't live in Canada, yet someone paid him substantial money just to show up and speak. Sound familiar? It should. This is exactly how Prince Andrew's relationship with questionable figures began. Seemingly innocent paid appearances that gradually led to darker associations. Harry's attempts to insert himself as a global player have become increasingly desperate. His trip to Ukraine, his constant positioning as some sort of humanitarian hero, it's all part of a carefully crafted illusion that's costing someone a fortune in PR. But here's the terrifying part. When the legitimate money dries up, when the speaking fees disappear, when the Netflix deals end, where does a desperate ex-royal turn? History has already shown us. Prince Andrew's financial desperation led him straight to Jeffrey Epstein. Sarah Ferguson literally begged a convicted pedophile for money. And now Harry's following the exact same playbook, grabbing cash from increasingly questionable sources, while his judgment becomes cloudier by the day. The security case meltdown revealed just how detached from reality Harry has become. His BBC tantrum, calling the legal outcome a stitch-up job, showed a man who genuinely believes he deserves taxpayer-funded protection simply because of who he used to be. This isn't just entitlement, it's delusion on a dangerous scale. And delusional people make catastrophic decisions. Brittany's assessment pulls no punches. Harry will get into a relationship with somebody dodgy if he hasn't already. The warning signs are all there. His recent attempts to cozy up to the Kardashians at Kris Jenner's party weren't just social climbing. They were the desperate moves of a man seeking any connection that might restore his relevance. But Harry's F grade is just the beginning. His wife, Meghan Markle, somehow managed to perform even worse, earning what Brittany describes as an F-, if such a grade existed. The complete implosion of her business ventures this year has been nothing short of spectacular. American Riviera Orchard's transformation into whatever it's supposed to be now, represents a masterclass in how not to run a business. The product launches were disasters. The Instagram relaunch that was supposed to mark her triumphant return to social media became a case study in inconsistency and confusion. Remember how she used to sign off every post with, "As ever, Meghan"? Even that small detail has been abandoned, just like every other attempt at creating a coherent brand. The Harper's Bazaar photo shoot wasn't just bizarre, it was revealing. Here was Meghan trying desperately to position herself as a fashion icon while wearing what Brittany brilliantly describes as something a woman from Boca Raton would wear who was in her 70s. The Balenciaga connection was even worse, aligning herself with a brand that's been mired in controversy over exploitative advertising. But the most damning revelation from Meghan's catastrophic year: her complete inability to move beyond childhood achievements. She's still talking about that dish soap commercial from when she was 11. Now she's added brownies she made for 1 year to her list of accomplishments. This isn't just sad, it's revealing. When your biggest achievements are from elementary school, what does that say about your adult life? The stolen podcast debacle, Remember How to Be a Female Founder, was so embarrassing it's been essentially erased from existence. She literally took a concept from a young woman, turned it into a disaster, and then pretended it never happened. This is the pattern with Meghan: grand announcements, spectacular failures, then complete denial. Moving up slightly from the absolute bottom, Prince Andrew managed to score a D grade, and only because he finally gave up his princely title without making too much fuss. But let's be clear, this isn't redemption. This is merely accepting the inevitable after years of lies about his relationship with Epstein finally caught up with him. The fact that Andrew scores higher than Harry and Meghan tells you everything about how low those two have sunk. At least Andrew has retreated into relative silence. He's not constantly poking at the monarchy, not launching new ventures every month, not giving explosive interviews every time he needs attention. He's accepted his exile, even if he hasn't accepted responsibility. But there's a book reportedly in the works. And if Andrew decides to break his silence for a payday, that D grade could quickly become an F. The monarchy is holding its breath, hoping he continues to fade into obscurity rather than following the Sussex playbook of monetizing family drama. Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, also earned a D grade. And honestly, she's lucky it wasn't worse. The email revelations this year were absolutely damning. Here was Fergie, knowing full well that Epstein was a convicted paedophile, still begging him for money. But worse than that, she was apologizing to him for publicly distancing herself from him. This is the pattern with Fergie that makes her so dangerous to the monarchy. She's been given countless chances over the decades. Each time she's welcomed back, she promises to do better. And each time, there's another scandal, another dodgy connection, another desperate grab for cash from questionable sources. The hypocrisy is what makes it unforgivable. Publicly, she denounced Epstein and claimed to have cut all ties. Privately, she was groveling for his money and apologizing for having to maintain appearances. This two-faced behavior is exactly why she can never be fully trusted again. Moving into the middle tier, King Charles earned a C+, which might seem harsh for a monarch, but Britney's reasoning is solid. Charles's biggest failure this year has been his reactive rather than proactive approach to family crises. The Andrew situation should have been handled immediately when Charles became king. Instead, he let it fester until public pressure forced his hand. The handling of Andrew's title was particularly clumsy. First, they announced Andrew wouldn't use it. Then 2 weeks later, they stripped everything. This isn't leadership. It's crisis management at its worst. A strong king would have seen this coming and acted decisively from day one. But Charles's biggest failure might be his refusal to deal with Harry. Every day that Harry and Meghan continue to monetize their royal connections is another day the monarchy's reputation erodes. Harry is becoming Andrew 2.0, except worse because he's actively profiting from attacking the institution. Charles's inability or unwillingness to strip Harry's titles and place in succession shows a weakness that could prove fatal to the monarchy's future. The institution needs modernization, strategic thinking, and proactive leadership. Instead, it's getting a king who seems to hope problems will solve themselves if ignored long enough. That's not going to work in today's media landscape. Prince Edward, Duke of Edinburgh, scored a respectable B grade, but even this comes with criticism. Yes, he's done his work without causing scandals. Yes, he's been reliable and consistent. But in an institution fighting for relevance, being invisible isn't enough. Edward is one of the monarchy's least problematic members, yet most people forget he exists. This is a massive missed opportunity. The monarchy needs to figure out how to raise his profile, how to use him more strategically. He's head of the Duke of Edinburgh Awards. Fantastic. But what else? As other senior royals retire, Edward needs to step up and become more visible, more impactful. His wife Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, shows how it's done. She earned an impressive A grade through high-profile trips to Congo, Ukraine, and Central and South America. She was actually the first British royal to visit Ukraine during the conflict. That's leadership. Her work with women who've been victims of violence and war has been substantial and meaningful. Sophie brings the star power that Edward lacks. She's proof that you don't need to be born royal to make a real impact. The monarchy would be wise to study her approach and apply it more broadly. Queen Camilla secured a solid B grade, with particularly strong marks for her work with victims of sexual violence. Her upcoming documentary about a family devastated by stalking and murder shows real commitment to difficult causes, but she faces an impossible challenge, living up to Diana's legacy while creating her own. Camilla lacks some of the glamour and charisma of other royal women, but she's proven herself a valuable asset. The question is whether she can use her influence to help Charles navigate the Harry and Andrew situations more effectively. So far, that influence seems limited. Prince William earned an A grade for establishing himself as a future king and showing real leadership during a difficult year. He's modernizing the Duchy of Cornwall and working extensively behind the scenes. The criticism? We need to see more of him in front of the scenes. The monarchy can't afford to have its future king operating primarily in the shadows. Catherine, Princess of Wales, also scored an A grade, and her return to public life after her health battles has been genuinely inspiring. Seeing her at engagements, looking healthy and engaged, has been a bright spot in an otherwise difficult year for the monarchy. But there's still work to do. The monarchy needs her to increase her engagements, possibly including an international tour with the children. Louis has never been on a royal tour. That needs to change. But the undisputed champion of Brittany's royal report cards, earning a perfect A++ grade, is Princess Anne. At her age, she remains the hardest working royal, conducting more engagements than family members half her age. But it's not just quantity, it's quality. Anne understands something crucial that many other royals miss. It's not the glamorous events that connect the monarchy to the people. It's those bread and butter engagements, visiting factories, opening community centers, attending local ceremonies. These seemingly small moments have the most lasting impact. Anne does these engagements with no fuss, no drama, no demands for special treatment. She asks intelligent questions, shows genuine interest, and then moves on to the next commitment. She's irreplaceable, and that's the monarchy's biggest problem. When Anne eventually retires, who fills that void? There's no obvious successor who combines her work ethic with her no-nonsense approach. The monarchy desperately needs another Princess Anne. Someone dedicated to the work rather than the glamour. Someone who understands that being royal is about service, not celebrity. Without finding and developing that person, the institution faces a very uncertain future. These report cards paint a picture of a monarchy at a crossroads. On one side, you have the workers like Anne, Sophie, and to some extent, William and Catherine, who understand their roles and execute them well. On the other, you have the liability brigade, Harry, Meghan, Andrew, and Fergie, who see their royal connections as something to be monetized rather than a responsibility to be honored. King Charles stands in the middle, trying to hold it all together, but seemingly unable or unwilling to make the tough decisions necessary to protect the institution. Every day he delays dealing with Harry is another day closer to a scandal that could make Andrew's Epstein connection look tame by comparison. The warning signs are all there. Harry's desperation is growing. His judgment is deteriorating. His willingness to associate with anyone who'll pay him is obvious. It's not a question of if he'll get involved with someone truly dangerous, it's when. And when that happens, will Charles finally act, or will he continue his policy of hoping problems solve themselves? The monarchy has survived many crises over the centuries, but this feels different. This isn't about one scandal or one problematic royal. This is about a fundamental question. Can an ancient institution adapt to modern times while being undermined from within by family members who've forgotten what duty means? Based on these report cards, the answer isn't encouraging. The workers are outnumbered by the problems. The leader is reactive rather than proactive. And the biggest threats, Harry and Meghan, are still out there, still using their titles, still plotting their next move. The clock is ticking. Andrew was a warning. Harry could be the catastrophe. And unless King Charles finds the courage to act decisively, to strip titles, to enforce consequences, to protect the institution over family feelings, we might be watching the beginning of the end. The irony is heartbreaking. Queen Elizabeth spent 70 years building the monarchy's reputation through dedicated service. It might take less than 70 months for her family to tear it all down. These report cards aren't just grades, they're a warning. The question is, will anyone listen before it's too late? That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.